From Kevin Costner leaving the Duttons high and dry to the Yellowstone cast having to move to 6666, there are a lot reasons why the new Yellowstone spin-off is doomed. Starting with the ego-driven conflict that made Costner leave. It's been confirmed that Costner is all set to leave the show for good. What if I told you that this doesn't just affect the original series? But in fact, it might just take down the new spin-off 4/6s as well. Doesn't make sense? Well, allow me to explain. It's quite clear that the only way for the original series to remove Costner is by killing off his character, right? But that one character has been the most important one in the Yellowstone universe from the very beginning. Now, with the 4/6s spin-off just around the corner, his death will force several characters toward the spin-off. In the main show, the 4/6s ranch is one of the biggest ranches, not only in Texas, but in the entire country. Characters like Jimmy Herdstrom, who's the main character of the spin-off, are already living there in peace and happiness. So the spin-off already has a connection with the original show, at least in terms of the location. Do you all remember the mid-season finale? Ryan, Jake, Teeter, Rip, and Walker all had headed to Texas with almost the entire herd because a deadly outbreak of brucellosis had contaminated their ranch. That means the show was already setting the plot for the spin-off by sending off so many important characters to Texas. But now the question is, how exactly will it ruin the upcoming prequel? Well, the same characters mean the same stories will continue. Since it's the same universe and the plot is set in the same timeline as Yellowstone, it seems like that the characters who've left for Texas will be a part of 4/6s. Even if they don't appear as the main cast, they'll still run into the new cast members, and that's where things will get messy. Rip and others could be gone for a year or even more, which confirms their role in the spin-off because the original series is already about to end, and there's no returning there. On top of that, it's also confirmed that Beth will be visiting Rip regularly. I mean, they are a major power couple. So we'll also see her in 4/6s, with all of these characters making the cut. The writers are bound to repeat the same patterns, because they can't just change their entire personalities, right? So safe to say, the storylines and subplots will get intermingled, and boom, it'll start looking like another season of Yellowstone, just with some new characters, but no John Dutton. This then leads us to an even bigger problem that the writers might cause out of fear of losing the audience. And that's the lack of risky events in the spin-off. After Costner's exit, the writers will probably want to keep every single one of the characters alive. They wouldn't want to make the fans think that everything they liked about Yellowstone is gone, and that'll lead them to avoid most of the risky stuff the show is about. This will ultimately make the plot super bland, and the spin-off might as well just become a flop. It's for sure that this new series will largely focus on the operations of the ranch, instead of the personal lives of the people who live there. But at the same time, the writers might not be able to avoid focusing on characters from Yellowstone, which also means that the main characters from 4/6s might get overshadowed. Fans don't really wish to watch the same Yellowstone drama in the spin-off as well, but it looks like this prequel won't get its own identity at all. At the same time, if we look at things from a different perspective, this might turn the show into something more focused on the historical background of the ranch. After all, the 4/6s ranch has a long history attached to it. On top of that, Taylor Sheridan is the owner of this ranch, so the spin-off might just go its own way. This is a man who leaves a chance for product placement in his shows. In fact, he even used Yellowstone for marketing his branded meat company in one of Yellowstone's episodes. So, yes, he'll most probably play with the plot to make sure it's more about the ranch than anything else. While these are some issues caused by the writers, there is another reason why the spin-off might be a bummer. And that's the fact that fans aren't too happy with the storylines they've been using. Some might not like the show anymore because Costner's leaving, but others have serious issues with the storylines. One fan, Play on Reddit, stated that there were things that had them laughing, while referring to the Native American plotline. They mentioned that this is the biggest example of how mindless the show can be at times. According to the fan, it was funny how they showed an elected tribal chief trying to buy back their land from the money he earned from his casino. Apparently, this kind of plotline really makes Yellowstone look like a South Park episode because a tribal chief won't try to buy his own tribe's land back. They'd fight for it instead. Another fan stated that the show is like a Western soap opera, and no one should be expecting anything more than that. While these opinions are still pretty much bearable, another one put the show in a whole new category. The Redditor of RevThrow called Yellowstone a superhero show for old people because it features a 68-year-old, a 76-year-old, and another 80-year-old as literal badasses. I mean, they weren't wrong, though. At the end of the day, it all boils down to the fact that the storylines haven't been too satisfactory for the fans lately. And if the writers can't keep up the quality for the main show, how would they do it for the spin-off? On top of that, someone will have to replace a fan favorite. And well, not many fans want to see someone else playing John Dutton. There have been reports that Matthew McConaughey is set to appear as Dutton Patriarch. There's a problem with this, though. Costner has set a standard for the character from the very start. His iconic way of speaking and delivering dialogues has brought a big fan base to the show. In a way, he is Yellowstone, and low-key irreplaceable. So this whole thing isn't really sitting right with most people. One Twitter user, Audrey Kaler, wrote a rant about how this isn't on. Because it's the actors who bring life to the series, and to go on without the main cast member just doesn't seem right. The user also mentioned that Matthew is not a replacement for Costner. Another user, Blacklanders, wrote that while this might not have been the best way to go, at least they have 1923 and 1883. The Wrap was quite mad at the showrunners for bringing Matthew in this way, and said that the new spin-off should be named Yellowstone. All in all, not many were actually happy about this news. And while these were some reasons why this spin-off is doomed, let's be honest, most of us will probably still be watching. So here's what exactly you can expect from the new spin-off. The official synopsis is already out, and in true Yellowstone fashion, they made it all very cryptic. But it does point towards the possibility that the show will tell us more about the history of the Four Sixes Ranch and how it was founded. Not just that, it also tells that no other place in the West is more steeped in history than the Four Sixes Ranch. It also adds that at this ranch, the rule of law and laws of nature come together in a place where the most dangerous thing one does is the next thing. That essentially means that anything they do on this ranch could turn out to be messy and dangerous. Now that's a synopsis that can keep the curiosity going, because it doesn't tell a thing about the story, but it does confirm the concern that the prequel will all be about history, and probably might never focus on a personal level. Given that the synopsis is out, the official release date announcement should also be just around the corner. But for now, the official reports only confirmed that the spin-off will be out in 2023. The previous spin-offs were out in the latter half of the year, and we're expecting the same from this one as well. The show is expected to be out in December 2023 and will premiere somewhere at the end of the month. Not to mention, Four Sixes is also getting a cable release, but for that, the release could be different. And while we're at it, let's also have a look at the faces we'll see in this spin-off. Jimmy, portrayed by Jefferson White, will obviously be back because of the events of Season 4, as he had gone to the Four Sixes Ranch to be with his fiancée. This also confirms that we'll see Emily, played by Catherine Kelly. Ryan Bingham is also set to appear in the new series, alongside Jimmy and Emily. Apart from that, Kelly Riley, Cole Hauser, and Ian Bowen, along with some others, will also probably join the cast. Let's just say it's going to be a full ranch. And so, from the Yellowstone cast being a major part of Four Sixes to Kevin Costner saying goodbye to the franchise, there was the reasons why the new Yellowstone spin-off is doomed.